going to be the same order. We're going to take the spec violation at the end.
Okay.
Everything else should be in order. Let me just set that time. Okay. State's counterplan, PERM, do the plan and have state legislators create remedy. 2, no net benefit will be, so the counterplan won't compete, turn on to this as the counterplan. 3, no solvency without the plan, counterplan will be struck down, red or no 4. In theory, state legislators could take steps to reconstruct public education. On the Supreme Court's current approach, the affirmative action, which states that whether states could do or the purpose of achieving racial integration is debatable. 4, only the Supreme Court can solve lack of political will to otherwise enforce this is Sherminsky in 03. The judiciary has created substantial obstacles to remedying the legacy of racial segregation in schools. The Supreme Court decisions over the last 30 years substantially contributed to resegregation. Desegregation will not occur without judicial action. Desegregation lacks sufficient national and local political support for the elected officials to remedy problems specifically of African Americans and Latinos lack adequate political power to achieve desegregation through the political process. The courts are indispensable to the effective desegregation over the last 30 years. The courts, especially the Supreme Court, have 5, fiat abuse. They fiat the object of their solvency. The counterplan is akin to saying from now on states will behave. The entire 1EC proves that they won't. The plan forces them to do so, but the counterplan simply asserts they will. Reject on face. It means no affirmative can ever win. The negative can just fiat the problem, solve itself. They can defend state action, but only existing action. On to Duke. 1, no link. Supreme Court can invalidate state policies with zero risk to political capital. Cochin in 03. The 17th Amendment can describe as changing the federal equilibrium or at least removing state legislatures from what is usually claimed, for example, that so does repaying the political capital. The court will strategically remove from political untenable positions. The risk of losing political capital while invalidating state law was nearly eliminated after the 17th Amendment, while state legislatures are removed from Congress's political constituency, and when a federal court is deciding whether or not to invalidate the state law, along with the legislative deal that the state law now concomitantly consummated, the federal courts can inject their individual preferences without disturbing the equilibrium. 2, uniqueness over one's elite. The amount of judicial capital lost by the plan isn't enough to swing decisions on other cases. 3, no internal link. The judicial capital is infinite and probably doesn't exist for many reasons. A, zero accountability. They don't have to remain popular for any constituency. B, life sentences. They serve for life. C, lack of ambition for higher office. This proves they are apolitical. D, court of the last resort. The finality of their decisions proves there is no spillover to other decisions. 4, no link. The court can deny, court will deny to any case that can hurt its political capital, and they've already agreed to hear a desegregation case this term. This is Lee. Some may argue that federal courts already labor under the obligation to investigate the prospects of legitimacy on a case-by-case basis. The Supreme Court's tertiary jurisdiction gives the court an opportunity to avoid any and all such cases. As the court fairly appears to have jurisdiction over the subject matter, it can be confident that any good faith judgment will be regarded as legitimate. It may not be popular, but the losing party may denounce the decision in its harshest term. But the general public and the bar are likely to view it as deserving of respect, and therefore it will probably be obeyed. You must reject the dissent, extend this Callahan 73 evidence from the 1EC. This is precisely the type of survival rhetoric excuse this Callahan tells us to reject. It allows the perpetuation of real human tragedy because of the concocted survivalist excuse. This is an independent reason to vote affirmative. You must reject the rhetoric. 10, Gerwith also concludes that you reject the disadvantage is not a logical consequence of the plan. Even if you buy the story, the impacts occur because of intervening actors. In this case, people who pressure the course on face is not a direct consequence of the plan. You must consider it when making a decision. Business confidence. 1, non-unique. Business confidence is at a 9-month low. Read in 06. New York. Americans' faith in economy has tumbled in August as a 9-month low, which could translate into tightened purse strings of job growth. Stumbles or few customer bound. Job-related worries were the big reason. Consumer confidence fell more than expected to this month at the lowest level since November. Last month, the index fell below 100 and was in November, which was the last reading, 98.3. Third, diversity in educational settings is crucial. Leads to tolerance in the workplace, which is necessary for American businesses to succeed. General Motors, 2000. To seek an increasingly diverse environment, American businesses must select leaders who possess cross-cultural competence, the capacities to interact with and to understand the experiences of multiplicity of perspectives held by persons of different races, ethnicities, and cultural histories. Numerous authorities concur that the cross-cultural competence is the most important new attribute for future effective performance in a global marketplace. Thus, it is essential that the selective academic institutions that prepare students to enter the business and professional world adequately equip them with the skill Much of the research confirms that the institutional obvious students are likely to acquire greater cross-cultural competence in the multicultural, multiracial, and academic environment in which students and faculty of different cultures and races interact than they are a homogeneous one in which cultural communication is merely a theoretical construct. 3. BizCon is not an accurate measure of the economy, just people's impression of the economy. Historically, BizCon does not accurately reflect the economy's true state. All right, on to the morality arguments. 1. Callahan, focusing on the need of survival results in a panic that leads to the sacrifices worse than life, such as dehumanization. This is Callahan 73. The first requirement is that the way to be found to respond to the need of survival without allowing that the need to come to your need theory can result in panic. The face genuine threat to survival, the panic can result in a real threat to survival. It will be more difficult to cope with the panic, which can lead to the draconian measures in the name of self-preservation. At the time, the question must be faced whether there can be such a high price to pay for survival. I believe there can be, particularly when the proposed price would involve the wholesale killing of the weak and innocent, sacrifice to an extreme degree the values and traditions which give the people their sense of meaning, identity, and bequeathing the future generations the conditions of life which would be degrading and dehumanizing. The price would be too high when the evil means chosen would be to create an intolerable life. Extend all of our Callahan cards from the 1AC, the Goworth card, and the Ruby card from the 1AC, which directly contradicts their claim on the consequentialism. On to the parental involvement term, that busing decreases parental involvement. 1, no good reason why parents stop caring about education because of minority busings. 2, impact empirically denied. We bus in the status quo. Plan just reroutes buses to integrate. 3, cross-supplier. Vegan Barnett 2000 card integration improves the educational environment. On to their education argument. This is that school desegregation decreases the number of African American teachers. This argument bites into criticism of the COSIN 98 evidence. The idea that separation is the only way to maintain equal education is exactly the reason why we have the social racism. 2, poverty kills education. By desegregating and breaking down the poverty cycle, we increase educational achievement. That's Carter, 93. Property wealth determines the quality of education in given school districts. Such a system puts at disadvantage schools with predominantly minority student enrollment, underscoring the continuing legacy of racial segregation. Okay. On to the invisibility of black children, that school desegregation would render black children invisible. This isn't true. It wasn't happening before Milligan. It wasn't happening before Milligan. None of their evidence points to this, so it's just not true. Reject on faith. Onto desegregation decreases the local community capital. I already answered that. It's ridiculous that people aren't going to care just because of desegregation. They're not going to care about education all of a sudden. That the status quo solves that No Child Left Behind Act allows for increased school desegregation. No, it doesn't. It doesn't remove the federal. It doesn't remove the federal barrier. It doesn't remove the case that Milligan established. So it doesn't. No Child Left Behind Act can't overrule a decision. So it doesn't remove the law. Onto Supreme Court promotion of school desegregation provokes congressional counter reaction. This isn't true. It usually doesn't happen that way. And this evidence is greatly overestimating the congressional ability to do anything now with the divided Congress. Overruling Milligan can overcome for systemic and entrenched barriers in the system. Okay. Yeah. All right. Onto their specification arguments. A, forces the act to be over-topical. There's no way for the act to meet the violation without also being subject to extra topicality. This causes an unfair double bind for the negative. B, over-limits the negative topicality definition, limits the round so much that it strangles the F's ground. A violation like that skews the F's out of the topical plan and could boost education. Sub B, over-limiting the topic that destroys education in the round. The fact that is using a microscope to evaluate the plan that negative excludes all material that is acceptable for the stifling of education. C, reasonable topical. Our text includes next available test case. This is the middle ground that provides the negative with ground for this as a counterplan. I'll give up for cross-sex.
Okay. Okay, I asked, this is the question, what's this argument that we bite the criticism that separation is good? You made that on, I forget what argument you made that on. You made that on like the reducing number of African American teachers, the teachers' turn. You said like this bites into our critique the idea that separation is good. What does that mean?
The teacher's term?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Or parental involvement. You're just like it bites into our critique.
Oh, the parental involvement. I mean, that's not, I didn't say that on the parental involvement at least. I read the top 3 here, that parents stop, it's ridiculous that they stop caring.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Let's move on. Any questions? Let's do this. Oh, fiat abuse on counterplan.
Yeah, that's
How is this fiat abuse? We
How-
are just using another actor. We're using another actor
Because
in the
Milliken-
government to do plan.
Because Milliken does, the reason Milliken occurred is because the states were not following the 14th Amendment, and now you guys get to fiat that they will.
Yes.
You fiat all 50 states will follow.
That would be multiple actor fiat, but you're just saying fiat is bad.
You guys are fiating that the states get to, that they will behave all of a sudden. This destroys any Milliken.
So
Okay,
is
do
your-
do they currently have your plan amended into their constitution?
Do the
Supreme
states
Court's,
have our
the
plan?
Supreme Court's constitution is above state court's constitution, right?
Yes,
Okay, and it governs state constitution right now, right?
yes.
And they have access to that constitution, right?
What do you mean by access?
Okay, never mind. So what are the reasons why this is bad?
The counterplay?
Yeah, is the link that we have multiple actors, like multiple states, or is it the link that we just fiat the object of the harms?
You get to fiat that the states are going to behave.
Yes,
all of a
why
sudden.
is that bad?
That's bad because it's unfair to us. You basically get to say that the problem won't happen anymore. It won't exist.
Okay. Any questions, Dan?
No, just
Okay. So you overrule Milliken. How does that necessarily, like, solve, access all your Callahan arguments? Like, just because you overrule Milliken, how does that mean that, like,
It's a fundamental step towards rejecting racism.
so would the counterplan also capture Callahan? Whereas we do the same action, if that's how you access a Callahan, the plan action is what accesses that. Why doesn't the counterplan still gain your Callahan stuff?
Well, the state courts are I can't think of the word. They're
Like the
under
state-
the federal court,
the
so there's
state
no
courts-
guarantee that their laws will be upheld.
But isn't the action alone gonna capture the moral obligation? We'll take just a little bit, right?
Okay. Do you want your